Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, Canada is finally woken up to the idea that the whole idea of independence with a not just one, not just two, not just 3 provinces, but 4 provinces. And the numbers are climbing at what Ottawa would call an alarming rate. Now, of course, everybody's kind of got their opinion. All the premiers, for the most part, are trying to be as Canadian as can be, even though they know that the numbers are pretty much there. I'm not saying that, obviously, if we had the referendum tomorrow, it would all work out, because there are major hurdles that have to be crossed first. I'm going to discuss a few of them right now. I've stated this on previous episodes. If you're a new viewer, tune into my previous episodes. Not only do I break a lot of good stories, there's a lot of really good information in there. Just the truth, just the facts. Sorry. Now, you need to have 0 federal dependency within your province, which, nearing the end of this video, believe it or not, Blanchette pretty much says this is what you need to do. And if anybody is going to tell you what you need to do to get to the point where you can be independent, he's one of them, although he's lacking in a few of the legislative parts of it. Whereas you got the prairie provinces, especially Alberta. Alberta has got all of the legislation in. Now they just need to remove themselves from the tit of the government, which is, number 1, you have to have your own police. You got to get rid of the RCMP. That's got to go. Now Saskatchewan has done the same thing. They've a week ago they've got their first little small batch, and if you are in Saskatchewan, this is one of the very first things you can do. You can start petitions within each municipality, so that each person who is your representative in your parliament has enough people signed over saying you want the RCMP gone and you want Saskatchewan marshals. It'll speed up the transition and it'll show public support. And if you're in Alberta, you should do the same thing. Number 2, you have to remove all of your pensions from the federal government and invest them yourselves, which actually is not a hard thing to do. The only difference is that you're going to be pulling pooled money. And of course, the larger amount of money that you have, you can make larger investments. And usually with those investments, you can gain a higher interest rate. But if you invest within your own province, the little wee bit that you're going to lose off of the top will start to just accumulate massively, because you're also propping up your province. So it's a win-win situation. And number 3, which is kind of the most difficult part of it, is getting enough people out to canvass, to not sign, not get a referendum going right away, because it'll fail. You got to ensure that you awaken the people all around you to the severity of the damages that have been done and will constantly be done to your provinces. And BC, their numbers are growing fast, especially the northern areas. And this is what a lot of people don't want to talk about. It is much better for the Indigenous to deal with an independent province. It'll benefit them tenfold right off the hop. And it'll give them an equal seat at the table, as opposed to right now, you have the government's foot on the Indian Act and all the rest of the legislation that follows through, stopping you from being able to develop your resources. Now, of course, there's some pretty crazy stuff. There's a few leaders that got together and they're like throwing the referendum bill down, and they're like being total idiots. Obviously they have no idea. They really need to talk to a pile of different nations that have pushed against the honkies who think they're doing the right thing. No pipelines on Indian land. In the meantime, they were opposed to it, going, yes, we want this pipeline on Indigenous land. And now they're getting huge rewards. So you also have to share that material as well, which I post lots, again, previous episodes, and I will be discussing this in future episodes. Today, we're just going to go right across. We're going to go right across the provinces. We're going to start with BC. We're going to hit Alberta. We're going to hit Saskatchewan. And then I'm going to hit Quebec. And just to kind of give you a feeler of where all of the premiers are at. Starting in BC, this MP deserves a lot of credit. Not only is she one of the very few who has stood up and tried to get these lying governments to finally tell the truth that there is no such thing as mass Indigenous graves. There are unmarked graves because the wood is rotted away. They've been forgotten over time and developments have been built over them, like in BC. And obviously we need to see the government paperwork, which they're still holding back. This can all be done, guess what? If we become independent. Gives us a way better foot to stand on. There is so much pros to being independent. But first, you gotta get your crap in order. Let's start in BC. I want to show you this part first. I think it is crucial. You see this little showdown and the child that is EB. This guy is one of the worst premiers, if not the worst, at the moment. Next to Dougie.
Good
morning, Mr. Speaker. According to a recent poll, the number of British Columbians wanting BC to leave Canada has grown from 20 to 28% in a little over 1 year. 2 weeks ago, the Premier said that he hates this discussion and that he wants it to stop. These anxieties are real. Mr. Speaker, with the election of Mark Carney, concerns may continue to grow. Will the Premier commit to acknowledging and engaging in meaningful consultation with this growing community about how to restore their hope in the future of this province and in our great country?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am very excited to work with the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. What he is saying about his commitment to trade corridors, to energy corridors, to supporting clean energy, consistent with the bill that was recently introduced to the House from the Minister of Energy around our electricity system here in the province and our support for the province of Alberta to help them decarbonize, for our support to the Yukon, support to major projects here to reduce carbon pollution, grow our economy, his support for critical minerals and mining, and the mining proposals we have going forward, the new mines we're opening here in the province, his commitment to make sure people get the training that they need, very consistent with our government's commitment to ensure people are trained for the jobs of the future, but most importantly, for his commitment to all Canadians, that we are going to stand on our own 2 feet, that we will not be apologists to Donald Trump and his 51st state agenda. Because what we're seeing is people who want to flee the United States and come to Canada. We want to welcome them here. We want to stand strong as an independent and sovereign country, and I look forward to working with the Prime Minister and all my colleagues across Canada on that.
Now, for those of you that don't know, the NDP in BC, and this is coming right from Eli Ross, which I urge you to watch previous episodes. I show you him pretty much explaining how the NDP did everything possible, including break the constitutional rules and setups and treaty negotiations and treaties in general to try to stop the nations from developing their natural gas. And the Liberals, Chris Christie, or whatever the hell you want to call that little demon in herself, her entire little party was involved in pretty much trying to steal land. And instead of giving the development to First Nations, they were diverting it over to their rich donors. So, just so you know, just wanted to fill you in on that. Everything he said is a lie. And especially considering Carney is the only new blood in the Liberal Party. 87% of them are all the same. So, take it all with a grain of salt. I don't trust him as far as I can throw the entire party. As for Carney, he's like 40 pounds soaking wet. So, yeah, a 10-year-old could toss that guy across a football field, which was shown in his Trump meeting.
Member has supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And there were no apologies made by me there. The Premier says he supports Team Canada, but has done nothing to address the greatest threats to our unity. Political interference by the Chinese Communist Party, the fragmentation of BC by over 200 bands, each asserting its own sovereignty, and the strangulation of our economy by powerful US-funded environmental groups and other hostile powers that are active in BC. British Columbians are losing hope, Mr. Speaker, and so I ask again, will the Premier engage in meaningful consultation with this critical group of people in British Columbia?
Everything she just said is a fact. Without a doubt, proof is there, 100% fact. Previous episodes, people.
Premier.
Speaker, this member's incoherent and consistently racist posturing in this House against Indigenous and First Nations that do in fact have rights and sovereignty in this province. Shame on me. Honourable Speaker, her promotion of residential schools denial, her denial of the sovereignty of First Nations and the rights of First Nations in this province continues now. It is disgusting and appalling. It advances us not 1 degree in growing our economy, in ensuring we're working with First Nations. What it does do is it drives wedges. It reduces our growth. It reduces our prosperity. It hurts people in real ways, making sure that jobs are not available. And so I ask the member to refrain from her hateful rhetoric, to step back and reflect on the impact of her very real words as a leader in the community. It is disgraceful. And I understand why people in her community have put up signs that say she is not my MLA.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Much appreciated, Mr. Speaker.
Now, everything that she said, like I stated just 2 seconds ago, is true. Everything that EB said is a blatant fabrication of his and the mainstream media's lies. They're outright lies. She's the only one so far who has been trying to talk about this and get the truth out there. This is dividing not only people in BC, but the entire nation. This is Trudeau liberal fascist hate spread through their propaganda machine. And they do it because it's easier to divide and win, which is how they've done it for how long? Another minority government and another minority government. And then they prop themselves up with more BS and more lies. This is ridiculous. And this is why so many, call it Canadians, want to leave. They are tired of it. Now, she had a great interview. I urge you, and once again, I post all my links. This is Rebel News. These guys are a fabulous network, outlet, independent media. non-state funded. Watch the whole thing. I'm going to show you a clip out of this. This is going to blow you away, what she says. And like I said, everything she says is fact. 1 in 4 British Columbians say they are Canadians' second.
Slightly over 30% of the population now is talking about the idea of separating. This is historic, for sure.
You said that you were looking towards Alberta leadership on this conversation.
We don't ask for special treatment or handouts. We just want to be free.
What's your orientation there? Why did you decide that Alberta's taking the right approach?
We're watching Alberta, we're watching Saskatchewan, we're watching what they're doing. What they're saying is that this structure, this country is not giving that province what it needs anymore. And the reason that resonates out here in BC is because a lot of people here also feel we're not getting much for being in this confederation and within Canada. And so are we separatists? No, but we're saying we need to listen to this growing sentiment that's coming up more and more out here. What's the point of being part of something when you don't feel like your votes matter? And it's particularly accentuated when you see how our province voted, both provincially and federally. So let's take the federal election. First of all, these polls were taken before the federal election. Now that we've got Mark Carney, a federal Liberal, most of British Columbia did not go Liberal. We've got a problem here. And you have to ask, why is this happening? And what are we going to do about it? What we see Alberta doing is laying down some demands, saying if we want to stay here, we need some needs met for our province, for the health of our economy, and we need to see that. Otherwise, what's the point? We can't just be a cookie jar for the eastern provinces. There has to be something in it for the people living in these provinces. And I think British Columbia feels the same way now. I mean, looking at the numbers.
What's unique about BC's separation? What needs specifically to British Columbia aren't being met?
Well, I think that it was reflected in the provincial election as well. The problems in BC right now are that we have a resource-based economy, and we built our economy based on mining, fishing, forestry, and then tourism throughout the huge amounts of BC. And those areas are not voting Liberal or NDP right now. They're voting Conservative. They want smaller government, lower taxes. They want faster response, less regulation. And we've got things impacting us here that need to be looked at. Now, if I can jump into that about what the problems we see that I see is that, first of all, we laid out 3 things to David Eby, which these are the things that got him so upset. The first one is the influence of the Chinese Communist Party in BC. We are being hit with billions of dollars of tariffs from China, and nobody even talks about it.
Now, previous episodes, Sam Cooper he's blown the lid off of every single. There is so much corruption involved in the Liberal Party federally, and specifically provincial, the NDP Liberal parties in BC. Eby has direct ties to people who work for the CCP and help fundraise. They've got not only their claws, they have both claws and wings covering the province, pushing through their agenda. They're controlling votes. They're changing the demographic of democracy within that province. She lays down great points here that mainstream isn't talking about. And if they would, there's no way we would have a Liberal government right now. There's no way at all. In fact, we would probably see the creation of more independent parties, better parties than the corrupt Liberals, the new Liberal Party, and I mean by new, Trudeau's Liberal Party as of the last 10 years, and the NDP. The NDP is just a waste, which we're going to get to here in a bit, especially when Mo ties into them. Point 2.
We also have political interference from China, and And this is not okay. And people notice it and they're aware of it and they want to talk about it. We have fentanyl flooding through our streets. And this is raised by the United States too. Like, you've got to stop the flow of fentanyl. And the research shows that it's coming from China. That's a big problem. It's destroying a lot of northern towns. The second issue we have is that we have over 200 First Nations bands declaring sovereignty over not just their immediate territory, or their immediate reserve land. It's over their territory that they say is their traditional territory. And this is a problem because, 204 bands all expressing sovereignty rights and saying things like, we're not part of Canada. We don't have to abide by Canadian laws or BC laws. That's a problem. And then the third one is we've been overwhelmed by very powerful US-funded environmentalist groups that have come up here and stirred the pot and created all of this push to really shut down industry in British Columbia. If I were a betting person, I'd say they want to shut down BC so that oil from Alberta can't get to the ocean. So if you block anything going through BC, you shut down Alberta as well.
There's been some really good reports done on this. This all started, this was what helped Trudeau get elected in the first place. There was hundreds of millions of dollars being pushed to suppress Western resources. They were smear campaigns. They were all lies. And they were also part of the Green Agenda, Carney's values. This swayed a lot of voters because they don't research. A lot of people don't have time to research. They click on the propaganda machine thinking they're getting the truth when they're getting a narrative pushed out by who they want to see in power. This has got to change, and that's another thing. You guys got to get rid of state media. Province has got to get rid of state media. Now, if you notice, she made a good point. The cities themselves are the worst perpetrators of stunting what's best for the nation. This goes right across Canada. You will see the rural areas, 95 or 98% of the actual geographic mass area vote Conservative. And the cities have more power. This is democracy, so this is the way it works. It's got to work. Everybody should be equal, which we don't have in Canada. Who don't live the environmental, outside nature life. They live the city life. It's go, go, go. They everything's bang, 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 bang. They think that the walk in the park, or some of them have a little garden in the back, and they think that that's how everybody lives, and they're not aware that the actual grassroots, the engine itself, is the rural areas. That's how Canada started. It didn't start with cities. It started with settlers. That's what sparked the engine, and that's what keeps everybody going. So when it comes to petitioning and getting out there and trying to get people awakened, the rural areas have to spend the time to organize and get to the cities. I know nobody likes doing it. I hate doing it. I lived in a city when I was young, and I'll never go back. Ever. I have to visit every now and then, and sorry, not interested. But you have to go back, and you've got to door to door, and you got to pamphlet, and you got to get the word out. And again, you got to like, share, and subscribe, people like myself in independent media, so that our voices get heard and the truth gets out there. Just the facts. We're going to move on to Premier Danielle Smith. She had a nice little interview with Lily. Again, this is Toronto Sun. This is a great news outlet. Again, They're left, they're right, they're everything. They're just the truth. They lay it out there. They're not afraid to ask tough questions. Again, I urge you, this is another great outlet if you want to see what's going on and have really good investigative journalism and great interviews. Lily is amazing. He asks serious questions. Let's take a listen. Premier Daniel Smith.
Because a lot of people in Central and Eastern Canada say, well, no, everything's great for me. Why are you so angry? Is it just because your party didn't win? And I tell them, no, that's not it. But I don't think they fully understand what's been happening to Alberta as everyone's telling Alberta, play on Team Canada, be on Team Canada. But Team Canada has not wanted you to be a player for much of the last decade.
Well, maybe the best way to describe it is for people to examine how scared and fearful they are that Donald Trump will crush their economy. That's how scared and fearful Albertans are that the Liberals will continue to crush our economy. But all of the damage that we have seen over the last 10 years, most of it has come from bad federal policy, coming out of the alliance between the Liberals and the NDs to target our industry and to put in punitive policies that are designed to keep our oil and gas in the ground. Maybe that's the best way to understand the feelings Albertans have right now. No, I'm feeling very hopeful. I think I've said before that I don't know if we've got conservative banker Mark Carney, who is our prime minister, or whether we've got a net zero advisory council to Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney is our prime minister, but I want to see which one that is, and I do think that if we can find a pragmatic path forward, then it's going to work for Canada and it's going to work for Alberta.
Now, my personal belief on this is that he hasn't changed. He's been pushing this narrative. He's the one pushing. He was one of the puppet masters of Trudeau and the Liberals. That's why they adore him as much as they do. He's going to try and make it sound as though he's not the new Liberal Party. He's going to change it once again. He's going to take it back to where it was 12 years ago. This is a lie. This is typical misdirection. Ready? Go get the ball. He's going to do this to try and break the numbers. And he's going to use mainstream media to help him do this, which they're already doing. They're trying to slander Daniel Smith. They're trying to slander Mo. They're going after every single person. They're trying to use this separatist movement, this independent movement, as some type of hard right-wing, crazy fringe minority, wherever we heard that before. And once the numbers start to come down and they can remove it out of the public eye, then he's just going to go back to what he's doing, which is making Brookfield and himself and all of his cabal filthy, stinking rich. And we're going to suffer. And Trump loves this. That's why Trump's meeting was the way it was. We're going to skip ahead a little wee bit further. Again, I urge you to watch this in its entirety. It's a really good interview. Brian Lilly's awesome. He interviews everybody. Again, I gotta promote good media.
You turn that down then? How do you deal with bringing the temperature down? I've heard some people say, Pierre Poilievre deciding to run where he is and Battle Creek Crowfoot, that is a good idea, that could help bring it down, that you could help bring it down. And Scott Moe is making comments in his province to bring it down. How do you bring that down?
Mark Carney has to bring it down. I'm only one part of a two-party deal. If there is no accommodation for the very serious issues that we've raised, if we continue on with just a Trudeau 2.0 series of policies, that's not going to bring the temperature down. If you want to reset, you have to have a reset. I think we witnessed that with Prime Minister Carney's visit to the White House. That was a very different tone and outcome than his predecessor. He has the ability to do exactly the same thing with Alberta. But I think that there has to be a recognition the issues that we've raised are serious. And I think he's treating them with the seriousness they deserve. But I guess the question will be, can we get a deal? And I hope we do, because I think that is going to be what allows for us to thrive and also for Canada to thrive.
Again, spoken like a true leader. You got to give her credit. She's definitely the best, hands down, premier out there. Nobody else comes close to her. She's got a great use of her words. She's very political, yet she's not afraid to speak her mind and follow through with her idea. Now, for those that don't know, she's a libertarian. She believes in true democracy and true equality and freedom. And that's what makes her so great. Now, let's move on to Mo. Scott Moe.
So, sorry, to be clear, you're saying that none of your MLAs, no one in your caucus holds Western.
No, I think there's more in the media gallery that are actually on that space, in that headspace. Yeah.
He's finally, I think that left nut dropped. I think this whole separatist idea, I think he's finally starting to come around, and I like seeing him get back to where he was before he was the actual premier. He can be witty. And that was a great line.
What do you mean?
Well, I think there's some folks in the media gallery that are harboring some separatist sentiments. Which ones are they? No, listen. I actually think it's alienation that many Canadians are feeling. And so if you're asking, are there caucus members that are, feeling frustrated with respect to the, use the examples, Bill C-69, the unconsulted introduction years ago of the carbon tax going to $50, never go higher. Then very shortly after, it's going to go to $170 and musing about even higher than that. These are all responsive feelings that Saskatchewan residents have. And so, with respect to, feeling some of that frustration, I would hope that our caucus, being a governing caucus, is large enough that it's reflective of the communities that they represent. But I'm sure there's people that, yes, absolutely want to separate from Canada. I think you could narrow that down to largely being frustrated. Frustrated with the unconsulted decisions that have come from Ottawa for the last period of time. And should that change, I think you'd see those feelings of alienation wane.
Sure, I don't think that it's unreasonable to assume that within the coalition.
So, he's a parrot of what Daniel Smith is saying, and I've said this again on previous episodes. He's just further behind. He is trying to enact the same things in order to give us a more independent structure within Canada, but in the same aspect, he's allowing for the people to have a voice and help to create change. Either way, it's good. It's good. It can only be good. We're gonna go ahead a little wee bit further here.
I'm wondering if you've had any conversations with Unified Grassroots at all about their petition?
I know there's a number of caucus members that will, talk to folks that have been part of that group. I probably have too, in fairness. I mean, they have tens of thousands of people in their group, and I'm sure many of them are in my constituency as well. So I can I don't know who, but I could probably assure you that in the conversations that I have in my constituency of Roster and Shelbrook or across the province, that there's no doubt that I have talked to a number of people that may, and I don't know who's kind of running or in charge of the group or how who's, if they have a board, but I can assure you that I've likely talked to people that are part of that group over the course of the last number of years and probably even over the course of the last number of weeks or months.
But have you talked about separation at all with any of these people?
So I don't know who these people are outside of that they might be part of this group, and I don't know how you become part of that group. But I've talked separation and the process of it, and the opportunities that we have in Saskatchewan to really grow our province within the nation of Canada with many people. And I would say that after that conversation, it's not uncommon for me to assess that many of those individuals aren't separatists in any way. They're just feeling a high degree of frustration with the feeling of not being listened to by the federal government and not being represented in the policies that are coming forward by the federal government, and really a deep sense of, at times, even anger, not only with it was really directed at the previous Prime Minister, but I think also, in fairness, directed at the NDP party that propped them up along the way, too.
And Ms. Martin.
And one final little clip.
Referendum on whether to stay or leave. How would you vote?
I would vote for a strong and united Canada any day and every day, and Saskatchewan to be part of that. Here is... I don't think it'll ever get to that. However, what I would say, and it isn't a government that is going to determine whether that happens. You know, I said in the floor of this assembly that every 4 years Canadians have a choice, and they vote for who is going to govern them, whether that be municipally, provincially, or federally. In between, for 40 years, we've had referendum legislation in place in this province so that in between those 4 years, there is an opportunity for a voice. And if there's enough people that petition the government for a referendum, whether it be on what the future of Saskatchewan looks like or any other topic, they have that avenue. What we see, and a fair question in this in this province, is you are seeing a piece of legislation that is being introduced by the opposition where they want to take away that voice. That's wrong. Silencing the very voters that you vie to represent is just plain out wrong. The opposition leader and the opposition party is going to have to explain why that is their wish. Thanks, everybody.
He's absolutely right. I'm such a nerd. I watched the question period again today in Saskatchewan, and the NDP, these people they were in favor of every single legislative bill put through federally in the last 10 years. They were in cahoots with the NDP and backed them to help push through all of this legislation that has crushed the West. And now, all of a sudden, they're all for pipelines. They're all for getting rid of the zero carbon footprint and carbon tax, and these are all the same MLAs. These people, they'll say whatever it takes, whatever's popular at the time to stay in power. This NDP party, provincially, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC, and guess what? Manitoba too, because I'm sorry, Wobby, he's a real piece too. They gotta go. They gotta go. They'll say one thing and then turn around and then they wouldn't say crap if their mouth was full of it. They only say it when they need to, and then they won't when they need to. It's the same thing over and over again. And again, the only way that we can straighten this out is by supporting independent media. Like, share, and subscribe. Because if you build us up, we'll actually be able to get to the point where we could actually maybe make some money off of these forms and be able to get out there and put a microphone and ask questions like a lot of Sun and Rebel do. But we need more of them. We need more of the independent in the scrum. You need to remove the fascist propaganda, the socialist communist propaganda. We need to limit them to the amount of power they have in asking questions. Suddenly, if all of a sudden there's 5 independent and 3 propaganda, you're limiting their questions, and you're allowing for independent media to put truth to power and call these people out and be able to literally laugh at them. And when they say something, go, oh, come on, for Pete's sake. We know that you already voted on this. You're going to answer the question. Put that forward, which is what CBC and the rest of the propaganda media edit out. The 1 or 2 little independents that are there, or even the local media that's there, they don't show those questions. They only show the softball questions, the narrative questions that they're pushing through. This is what you got to do to either keep Canada together and get real, or get independent. Either way, it's a win-win situation. Once again, we're going to move on. This was Dougie yesterday. I'm going to show you yesterday, and then I'm going to show you today, because this is Douge Ford. This is what he does. He's Mr. Flip-Flop. He's a full-fledged liberal. This guy is such a waste.
You know, we always believe in something called the Amcan Fortress.
Nobody believes in the Amcan Fortress. This is a stupid name he came up with. He's been trying to push it, and nobody gives a crap about it. Nobody. AmCam. Jesus, where'd he dig that out of, for crying out loud? Oh.
American Canadian fortress. We put a ring around it. We'd be unstoppable anywhere in the entire world. We'd be the wealthiest, richest two nations in the world and the safest two nations. And, you know, all he's trying to do, and we wish him, I forget about political stripes, by the way. We have a prime minister down there, and he's going to be sitting down, and he's going to give it everything he can. This is a time to unite the country.
Okay. You hearing what he's saying? So, everything that he thinks he wants, AmCam, and we're going to put a ring around it, and we're going to do this, and we're going to build it, has been made from the same Liberal Party that's in power again. That he, for lack of better words, promoted to get elected. Everything he says is BS. This guy is a full-fledged liberal. All he cares about is his power and the companies that back him. This guy drives me nuts.
Not people saying, oh, I'm leaving the country, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You know, united we stand, divided we fall. And we have...
Really? Really? So that's why you got the Liberals in, which everybody in Canada has been warned. How many different people have come forward, Preston Manning and the rest of them, saying, you guys, if you guys vote the same party in who's destroyed our nation, you're going to see separation just explode. But oh no, Dougie, not the brother, helped to keep these people in power. Cheered them on. Big smiles, handshakes. Ooh, this guy's a goof.
Have to be united Canada together to fight President Trump's tariff.
Yeah, what a waste of skin. A little bit further ahead, this guy's ranting.
We have more critical minerals here than anywhere in the entire world. You know, we hear about Alberta's oil, and God bless them. We would have more funding, more money coming into our province than Alberta's oil. But we can't do this the same way we've been doing it for years and years and years. And I mentioned this to the Prime Minister, and he's 100% on board.
Really, with the exact same people. With the exact same people in his party. This guy, I tell you, you know, they caught Robbie smoking some stuff, but I think he found his brother's stash in the last few years, because this is insane.
That are helping us. We've signed 2 MOUs, one with Nova Scotia, and Premier Houston. The guy's been a champion, by the way. He's leading the way as well in New Brunswick. I've called the other premiers. They're all lining up. So we'll actually have free trade. And this is larger, believe it or not, than the tariffs. This will add $200 billion to our GDP, and it could raise our GDP up by 7-8%. These are staggering numbers when you think of $200 billion. But folks, we need to do more than that as well. We need to invest directly in our workers so they have the skills and the experience they need to find good paying jobs and help grow our economy.
Where were you for the last 20 years, Dougie? I'm not no politician. Everybody I talk to for the last 30 years has all been talking about how stupid it is that you can't buy something in another province and bring it across. Alcohol, smokes, all the rest of it, everything else, wines, and how come factories are limited and it's easier to ship to the States than it is interprovincially? Oh, now because Canada's crushed and Trump is demolishing us, now it becomes a priority. Again, they only do this for power. He doesn't care. But oh, don't worry, because old Dougie, he likes to flip-flop.
So we just had a great conversation with the Prime Minister.
You see the big old brown spot in his nose? Well, it's not obvious, but trust me, you're going to see it.
Minister and all the premiers. We all congratulated him on his victory, but also congratulated him on how well he did yesterday and the restraint he showed. I don't think I'd have...
Now, previous episodes, there's 2, like back to back. We got destroyed. Carney, everything that he said while he was running, everything the media was pushing, just got flushed right down the toilet with that Trump meeting. And then Trump's already said it in a couple other pressers too. Like, nothing's changed, people. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing has changed. In fact, we look even worse than we did before because we've got another really weak, two-faced leader who's going to allow his green agenda to just keep crippling Canada. But go ahead, Dougie. Keep kissing Carney's butt.
Of the restraint that he had yesterday, to be very frank. But in saying that, I think it's a good start on a new relationship. I saw President Trump said really kind things when he just tweeted out. So that's good. It's good for the country. It's good for the U.S. Had an opportunity to speak to the U.S. ambassador this morning and get his take on things. I think everyone's feeling relatively good on the.
Yeah, relatively good. Because if Trump is happy about Carney getting elected, it pretty much tells you right there Trump got what he wanted. He got the 51st state, and the West ain't going to be part of it. They want to be on their own. They don't want to be crushed. They don't want to suffer. They see what's coming. They've already been suffering like this for 35, 40 years. I mean, take Trudeau, the first one. I mean, look what he did. I'm surprised the West hadn't separated already. But again, mainstream media propaganda. They push it out of the limelight. They talk good. They don't show you the negative impacts. They don't show you the injustices through our democratic system, the misrepresentation. They do their job incredibly well. Go ahead, Dougie. Keep kissing some butt.
On the meeting yesterday. So that's a good start. We had that conversation with the rest of the premiers. I think Prime Minister Carney did a really good job in really reaching out to the West. And I was pretty blunt. I said, it's time that your government starts showing some love to Saskatchewan and Alberta because as I said, like the last Prime Minister showed no love. Matter of fact, to the contrary. So it's nice.
So where were you this election, Dougie? Why would you allow the 87% of the same frickin' MPs are still in their seats today? Why would you allow it? See what I mean? This guy, he's just a typical evil politician. They don't care. They're only saying what makes them popular. This is all going to be brushed under the rug in the next couple of years. They're going to try and brush it under the rug and make it look like they're doing something, and then they're going to go, oh, well, there's no business for it because nobody's jumping to get the pipelines built because they still got 15 or 17 years of hurdles to go through because nothing's going to change.
That we're heading out there to Saskatchewan for an FMM meeting I think it's on June the 1st and June the 2nd, which is a good olive branch, and had a good discussion. So I'm a big believer of pipelines, big believer of getting rid of C-69, and we need to unite this country. And the way we're going to unite this country, as I mentioned to the Prime Minister in front of the premiers, show some love to the people of Alberta and Saskatchewan. And let's start diversifying our trade when it comes to oil. Let's start building pipelines west, east, north, and yes, south as well. But they're getting a discount, by the way. We ship them $100 million worth of oil. They turn it into $300 million and ship it out. I think the number, we're giving them a discount of 20%. Well, let's start shipping it out, because we know, and I've mentioned that to the U.S. ambassador today, that if you take oil off the trade, they have a $50 billion surplus with Canada. And I encourage them, let's start moving forward. Let's sign a deal, and let's bring certainty and build this AmCan fortress that I've been talking about for a number of months. Again. And that was our conversation for the most part.
He's trying to push his own. Okay, why wasn't he talking like this before the election? Crickets. Because he got who he wanted in power. This is this guy's a full-fledged liberal, full-fledged Liberal. Now, Yves Blanchette, you got to hear it right from the man himself. It's priceless.
With Prime Minister Carney and President Trump, how do you think it went? Do you think more should have been done? Or
the expectations were not very high. Don't shame us in front of the president. Stand your ground. I believe he did that. He did not obtain any better deal about tariffs. We did not believe he would do that. He did not obtain the president from keeping this stupid idea of the 51st state alive. And he forgot, because it was very recent in time, to tell the president that it would be absolutely inadmissible for him to impose tariffs on this closely linked economy in cinema between United States, Quebec, and Canada. It is important for us. It is singularly important for Quebec. But at the end of the day, not so bad, but not so much sensibility about what is important for Quebec.
For a long time, we've been talking about trying to separate from Canada. Now we're seeing that out in Alberta. For the people in Alberta who want to separate, do you have any tips for them on how to
Our success so far does not place me in a position to give them tips about what to do, but I could give them tips about what not to do. Not now. The first idea is to define oneself as a nation. Therefore, it requires a culture of their own. And I am not certain that oil and gas qualify to define a culture. But
now, I can tell you something right now, because I have been coast to coast more times than I can count on my fingers and toes, times whatever. Of all the places I've been to, Quebec and Ontario, other than the French, especially the southern parts, are the same. They're the same. They think the same. They're the same. The only difference is one day they vote Liberal and the other day they vote the Bloc. That's it. You want to see a unique and distinct area? Go to Newfoundland. Go to Cape Breton. Go to Saskatchewan or Alberta. Go to the coast of BC. Go to northern Canada. By the time you leave from the west, and if you follow the shores all the way across to Labrador, you have got 20 or more completely unique Canadians. Far more different than Quebec is. All they have is their language. Try that up north. Really? You want to see languages? Really? You want to see very unique cultures? Blow these guys right out of the water. And personally, way more Canadian. Way more Canadian. Live off the land, and concerned about their environment. Enjoy the outdoors. Try to keep distances between other cities, but yet not afraid to be able to talk and discuss amongst each other. Same thing when you get to Alberta and BC. There's a cohesion, but yet very unique, totally different people. Like I've said on other episodes, because I've been across Canada so many times, when you're dealing with people, especially like the waitressing and bartenders, they're amazing. And even the hotel industry. We would go in, we would place an order, and right away, the waiter or waitress would look over and they'd be like, "You're from the West, aren't you? Not BC either. You're from Alberta or Saskatchewan." They could nail it. Hotel staff would know where we're from because of how we would leave our rooms. Spotless. That used to be a Canadian thing 40 years ago, But as I toured and toured and toured, I started to see a lot of differences, especially from the big cities. They don't carry that. I'm just laying it out there. Let me know how you feel in the comments, but that's the way it is. In a small town, if you get caught throwing your garbage out, you're gonna hear it, man. Like, if there is garbage flying out of the back of your truck, you're gonna hear it. In the cities, small towns, if there's a scrap or something where you know it's wrong, people speak up. They used to. That's slowly dying off because of the rules and regulations put in. People are afraid of doing right. The way the federal government's taken our rights away. You can't even be Canadian anymore. And this is what the West is fighting for. They're trying to keep what they believe in. And again, Newfoundland and Labrador and Cape Breton and New Brunswick, very unique, completely different from each other. Completely different from each other. But yet all Canadian and the same. Why they keep voting Liberal? I talked about this a little earlier. Cities rule. Municipalities have no say. None. Especially the way our democracy is set up. The East and West. You can win the popular vote and not win government. That tells you something right there. We're going to go a little bit.
It's theirs to decide if they want to vindicate the right to self-determination. Would never interfere in that. It belongs to them. I would like us to be the first to do so.
Monsieur Blanchet, you would like to be the first one to leave. Yeah. Well, good luck with that, because guess what? The numbers in Quebec, especially after they voted Liberal, just show. They just proved they're no longer the ones to worry about. The idle threat. What we call them the welfare province, because that's all they do is take money, and they use their system in order to hide money so that they can claim, oh, we need more money. They've been taking so much money from Canada, it's just an embarrassment. And I'm glad Daniel Smith threw this out there, because the EPP's got to change. It has to change. If we just got rid of that alone, between Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC, the system, the country, the independent country, if they came together, holy, I'm talking, your taxes would be way more than half. Your gas prices would be way less than half. Everything. You'd have better Medicare, you'd have better schools, you wouldn't be giving all that money away. And you'd have resource development, so your economy would flourish. Flourishing economy means better tax revenue. Better tax revenue means better infrastructure, better healthcare, better social services, better. He has no idea. He still thinks, oh no, Quebec, you're independent. We are unique, distinct people. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're Ontario. You're Ontario 2.0. You're the same. You're less unique than 80% of Canada. Just saying it. Let me know how you feel in the comments. That's my opinion. Gonna go a little wee bit further.
When we decided to be more possibly collaborative with the Liberals, because this is precisely what we heard from the people in Quebec, and we saw the result of that also. There were conditions. The economy of Quebec is different from the economy of the south of Ontario. And I'm still waiting, in most cases, for some sensibility to that. I also said that there should be a truce about French language and secularity of the state, and number of people being welcome in immigration. The part of those who stay in Quebec, the fact that we don't want a pipeline through Quebec. I have heard nothing.
Boy, is he ever out of touch. I think the last poll was 71% in Quebec want the pipeline. And it's like 54% want to develop the resources there. They're tired of being called the leeches, the social assistance province. They're tired of it. We just need more of them to speak up, and it's too bad they voted Liberal, because they're never going to see it. They're never going to see prosperity the way that they should see it. Canada is broken. It's completely broken. It has been for a long time, and the Trudeau Liberals, the now Carney Liberals, they took what was left of it and they shattered it into pieces.
So far to make me feel confident that he will listen to that. But I am absolutely certain, however, that the result of the election having been what it is, he won't have much of a choice. I believe that Quebecers gave him voice, many votes, which they could take back next time, if need be. He will have some time to work that through.
Craziness. Well, there you go, people. That is, like I said, it's top of mind everywhere. Everybody is talking about it. It's not a little thing. It is a huge thing. The numbers are skyrocketing. I hope you take my advice. I am just going by what every single person who's involved in the independent movements have been saying, and then reading a lot of the legislation and reading the court cases as well. I'm kind of going over it again and again and again that Quebec went through that gave us this Clarity Act. It's quite fascinating, and don't let the media lie to you. It's easy breezy. It's easy breezy. Like, seriously. But you need to do, like I said, fundamentally, you gotta the number one thing in order to ensure, first of all, that if you do decide to stay, if we all decide to stay in Canada, we will have the power individually as each province to fight back against the federal government, the East, the 3% of the surface area that controls 97% of Canada. It gives us the fighting power to do so, but it also gives us the ability that at any point in time, once we've removed ourselves from the federal government, we can leave. And if you haven't got one, but two, but three provinces, it's done. It's done. One province, a little bit harder. It's going to take a lot more time. But at two provinces, you're shortening the time. Three provinces, it'll be done. It'll happen fast. So keep your groups organized. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, you have been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagay. Stay informed.